All right, Dan, we're live.
Hello, it's Dan Tiernan.
This is David Swedburg. We have a name for our podcast officially.
What is it? It's the Cowboy and Unicorn podcast.
Yes.
Is it the Cowboy and Unicorn podcast, or is it just is there no the on it?
And is there an S at the end, like the Cowboys and Unicorns podcast, or?
Oh, I think it's plural.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Unicorns
Podcast.
The
or the Cowboys or the Cowboys.
No, I mean I don't mean the or the. I mean like Cowboys and Unicorns podcast or the Cowboys and Unicorns podcast.
I think you have to add the.
You have to have the. Okay, I'm cool with that.
All right. Now that that's established.
What does that mean, Dave?
It's really deep and profound. But like a
Explain.
good artist, I would not want to take away from
Give
what
away
it
the
might
mystery.
inspire in all of our listeners, you know? So basically
We don't know what to name the podcast, people.
We don't know what to name it. My wife said it should just be as random as possible. And so I said, how about Cowboys and Unicorns?
There hasn't been a lot of brand direction for this podcast.
No, not really.
We mostly just pressed the on button and decided to take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, and then just talk and create content. That easy. So, what are we drinking today, Dan?
I am drinking two things.
Oh, man. Double fisting.
Double fisting. I have an Evan Williams Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Pretty run-of-the-mill bourbon.
Okay.
Tastes good. I like it. It's good for the value. It's got good value. And then I'm also having a Deschutes Hop Slice Summer Ale, which I haven't had for a few months, but it's pretty good.
So you tried it before?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
While back.
I had not tried it, and I think it's pretty tasty.
It is.
Maybe could have a few more hops to it, but
Yeah, could be a little bit bitter, but then again, it is a summer ale. It's got a nice citrusy finish.
yeah, kind of overall citrusy, nice and fairly light. Good for a hot summer's day.
Yeah, I started reading a book about craft brews over the weekend that my brother got for me around Christmas time. I finally cracked it open, so
Okay.
hopefully you'll be hearing nerdier and nerdier terms about beer. I shouldn't put these expectations on myself. I'm probably going to read the chapters and then forget what goes on, but it's kind of interesting.
I believe in you. You can add a little more actual opinions. You can have an opinion once you've read that book, I think.
Right. You can have some educated bullshit when you come to the tasting notes.
Yes, exactly. And what are you smoking?
I am smoking what you smoked last week, this Diesel Uncut. And, yeah, kind of like you said, it's nice, mild, middle of the road.
Yep.
Tasty, not too difficult, not too spicy. It could be maybe a little bit more interesting, but
Yeah,
again,
it definitely you kind of appreciate how middle of the road it is, like after an hour and a half of it. I think that makes it so you can like smoke it all the way through, and you don't get overwhelmed at any point. But
maybe I should slow down. I smoke fast. I don't think it's gonna last me an hour and a half.
no, you're burning there.
I'm an intentional smoker. I'm purposeful.
Right.
Purposeful puffs.
Or
Maybe we should have called the podcast that. Purposeful puffs.
Purposeful puffs. Oh, hey. I mean, it's not too late to rebrand since.
Call it smoking on purpose.
Oh, yeah, I've had a few people since putting up more content around pipe smoking and such, kind of judging me.
Judging you?
Maybe a little bit.
Like family members or community members or?
My family's actually pretty good.
Okay.
Just a few coworkers and stuff, see stuff on Facebook and they're like, I didn't know you smoked. And you're like, yeah. And then just in their voice, right? A little bit of a negative connotation to you smoke.
Tobacco pipe.
Yeah, it's
pipe
just
tobacco.
Pipe tobacco.
Tell them that.
And then and then I happened to say something about smoking a bowl of tobacco, but before I could add of tobacco, then everyone got all up in arms. And
Are you doing the weed?
you smoked the weeds? Nope. No smoking of the weeds. But I am smoking some very good McTruffle by McKelland in my pipe here.
So it's not like the McDonald's of pipe tobacco?
No, it's like very chocolatey. It's actually, I'm not a huge fan of aromatic tobaccos, which basically, I mean, that means they have like artificial things and flavors added to them,
right.
make them sweeter and stuff. But this McKelland still has a fair amount of body to it, probably a medium-bodied smoke, and then has kind of a chocolatey, rich sweetness to it. So
sounds good.
I'm definitely a fan. It's a good one.
And where did you get that?
Pipesandscigars.com.
Pipesandscigars.com. Nice.
That is where I have bought my tobacco from lately, since I've started with pipes. But there's nowhere around here, like at all, where you can get any decent pipe tobacco. So you have to go online.
Okay. Not in Alec?
No, not even in
Okay.
Alec. It's pretty much the basic stuff that it's like really, really light aromatic tobaccos. So not super enjoyable.
Can you order it off Amazon or?
I have never looked
haven't
for
really checked.
pipe tobacco on Amazon. I do know that there's pipes on Amazon. There's
Right.
probably pipe tobacco.
Probably everything. Do you see Amazon bought Whole Foods?
I did.
$13.7 billion. That's a lot of money.
That's jump change, Dan.
For Amazon, right? They're
For
like-
Amazon, I suppose. That's what they make in Amazon
Anytime there's
Prime
a
every year.
billion, that's a lot.
That's a lot of
Not
money.
4 billion,
I was gonna
13.7
say,
billion.
Not just 1 billion.
I've never been to a Whole Foods.
I think I probably have.
I think the closest one's probably 3 hours away from us.
Right. I think there was one in Brainerd, Minnesota, like close to where I grew up. So when you drove to the nearest Walmart, which was an hour away in Brainerd,
Okay, so there's one.
sometimes we'd go to Whole Foods. So
Right.
yeah. So, what's new this week?
What's new this week? Pertaining to
Exciting office news. You've been married for a year officially.
Yeah, I had my 1 year anniversary yesterday, so that was pretty cool. My wife's in Peru.
So that wasn't pretty cool.
So I talked to her over Facebook Messenger.
Oh man. Like video call at least?
No video, just a regular call, because her internet isn't that great. And when we do the video calls, it's kind of shaky. So just a phone call.
But you got to hear her voice.
I did.
That was nice.
Yeah. Technology's cool. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. You can make an international phone call for free over Facebook as long as you
It's
both
pretty
have
sweet.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of perks to that. I mean, in reality, you could go travel without having to get an international plan for a couple weeks or a month or whatever. If you just
we didn't. This is what we've relied on. So
right, yeah. I mean, you just take your pictures on your phone, do all your stuff, but wait till you're back at the hotel for some internet or wherever you're staying.
Can you imagine back in the day before phones or email or anything, when people took a long trip, it was like, yeah, well, I'm not going to see you for a year, or like, I'm going off to war, or we're going out west, and we'll never see you again. You'll never know your grandkids.
Yeah, that's just
That's an adventurous spirit. I don't know if I have that. I feel like I would have been one of the stay back east people, maybe.
really, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
It's hard to say.
There's always that piece of adventure, right? Where you're like,
But it was real adventure back then. It wasn't
Right,
Airbnb adventure.
like the adventure where there's like a 50% chance that you die on your way there.
Yeah.
So you bring your kids just in case one of them survives to carry on your legacy, right?
Let's go somewhere there's no doctors and no people.
And no people, and yeah. Yeah, I don't think the Oregon Trail went very well for a lot of people.
And the native folks who've been living there a while probably won't be exactly excited that we're coming to
Yeah.
farm their land.
Yeah, probably.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I might have done like a trip. Like I would have gone west, by horse, all that stuff. But like Columbus, sailing the ocean to go find, new place to live. Like there's no way I do that. Get on some boat and just like.
You're not a seaman.
No. Especially just with all the opportunity there.
Right.
That like.
And pirates weren't just in movies back then.
Yeah. Well, and then
it
I
was
mean,
a
run out of
legitimate
food,
career choice.
And then you're stranded on some island, and yeah.
Yeah, revolts the whole bit.
Swiss Family Robinson, though. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I
Speaking of,
have.
like
the Disney version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a quality movie.
Yeah, I watched it a lot as a kid. Those good times. Yeah, something appealing about being an adventure, but
Right.
when the rubber hits the road, I don't know if I'd actually have it in me.
It's also kind of hard, like, even though we're young, now that we're married, there's kind of like this whole practical perspective shift that you kind of have to have when you start thinking about those things. Maybe if you asked me 2 years ago, like, Dave, would you have gone and settled the West? I'd be like, oh, yeah.
But with the kid, you'd be like, eh.
But now it's like, oh, no, I probably wouldn't do that.
Time to settle in. We're pretty soft now, though, if you think about it, compared to people back in the day.
Right.
We don't have to hunt for our food. It's not that people don't work hard anymore, but I don't know. We don't live in imminent danger. There's no threat from the neighboring
Right.
tribe or village, or we don't have to save up food for winter.
Right. Like, overall, I mean,
No complaints.
there's not a whole lot of, like, daily concerns that we run into.
Right. You don't wake up going, how am I going to survive?
Right. And it's like, oh, well, if I was going to run out of money, I could just open up a credit card and run out my lines of credit. Like, there's no
I won't
credit
be homeless
back then.
for another 18 months.
The credit back then was like trading your daughter, I think, for like some goats or something. Like,
Oh, my.
I need some food so you can have my firstborn child here.
Sounds like a Bible story.
Oh, man. Dan just went there.
Back it up.
Reverse. Dangerous territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, overall, it's only Tuesday of the week, so things haven't gotten too interesting so far.
Right.
Our due date for baby was yesterday, and my wife is still pregnant, so
Still preggers. Is she happy about that, Dave?
she's very unhappy about that.
Understandably so.
Yeah, just
Maybe women are still tough. Women who have babies. Maybe I feel soft, but I feel like that's one of those throwbacks.
yeah,
Childbirth.
right.
I mean, obviously, there's modern technology and medical wonders and all that, but yeah, that's still some hardcore crap right there.
Yeah, that's still pretty BA, I'd say.
Glad I'm a dude.
Amen. Yes.
So, Dave, you only went to one semester of college. Is that correct?
That is correct, Dan.
Where am I going?
Was that a leading question?
It's been on my mind for 15 minutes. I don't know why. Why'd you drop out of college? We're sitting here with David Swedburg, a local college dropout who has managed to find himself a career. How did you do it, Dave?
Wow. Well, big man upstairs. Lots of support from my family and fans out there.
This is not an awards speech, Dave.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, man.
Why did you decide to go to college?
So, I decided to go to college just in general. I mean, because that's kind of the thing that you're supposed to do culturally, right? Like,
social pressure.
You graduate and you go to college. And I was kind of like, when I first graduated, I actually took a year and I went down to Nashville and stuff. kind of did the gap year thing, but then, right, you have kind of this pressure of like, okay, I have to figure out how am I going to supply for a family someday, and, kind of all those instincts of like, okay, I got to figure my crap out and do something to get myself a career.
Didn't you find roommates in Nashville on Craigslist?
Oh gosh, that's another
can we
story.
Fact check that.
That's hey, the guy said he was Christian and looking for musicians to live in the house with him.
Wasn't there like 13 other people in the house or something?
Yeah, and he actually was like 42. Really
what'd
sketchy.
You think, how old did you think he was?
It was.
I thought he was a 20-year-old girl. Turned out he was a 42-year-old dude.
I wish I could pull up the ad. It's been so long, but it said something like, "Motivated young Christian musicians looking for someone to share our apartment or take a room in our apartment or something like that."
A life together.
Right. And so then I was like, okay, this is cool. Probably it was a little bit before like social media was quite at the level that it was at now, right? So like
you couldn't find as much about him online.
Yeah, exactly. Which could have maybe been like a number one like flag. I can't find this guy really on Facebook to figure out who he is. But yeah, so my parents and I get down there, like, so the reason I did this is because the rent was like 3 times cheaper than anywhere else, right? It's like,
and you're 18 or 19 here?
I was 18, or yeah, at that point I was like 18, like a couple months 18.
That's pretty cool. You're
Yeah.
18, you moved to Nashville.
It was a sweet experience. Like, pack up your Jeep with, I had my drums and my guitar and like some clothes, right?
Man.
Had the promise of a bed at my new apartment.
That's all you need.
But there really wasn't a bed when I got there. It turns out in this 2-bedroom apartment, when I moved in, there were 4 of us. Then there were 5 of us. One guy, his room at night was a shower curtain pulled across like it was the dining room. Like, his bed was in the dining room, and then there was the kitchen, and then there was like this entryway deal that went into the living room. So he pulled a shower curtain across at night, and his bedroom was like there in the dining room.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was not awesome. So that was.
So you do your Nashville venture.
That was a good experience.
Come back to Minnesota.
So when I was down there, I kind of got a taste for audio engineering, and production and stuff. And then that kind of made me think maybe I should pursue getting some type of a schooling in that. And for some reason, I decided to go to North Central, which is a Christian Assemblies of God Christian college down in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
And that is $100,000 for a 4-year degree.
Wow.
So that was dumb. So I worked all summer.
You got out though. You got out before the $100,000 got sucked from your pockets.
Yeah, but I still had like $3,000 in student loans for one semester, Dan. And I worked all summer, and I saved up $8,000 that I paid just out of pocket right away for school. And then I worked full time while I was there.
Wow.
And so you just can't really have like much of a life outside of trying to do well in school and work full time to be able to pay for it.
Yeah,
so,
it's kind of a rough mix.
Yeah,
for 4-year school.
I kind of was just like
working all the time.
It's really not worth it, right? So that's kind of why I dropped out. And then when I actually came to Morris, I had full intention of going back to school after like a year. I didn't know what for.
At the university here?
That was one of my thoughts, yeah. So, well, the problem was in high school, I didn't really care about my grades. And so I had like a 2.0. And so I had like no schools would accept me right away based off of that. But I had a really good GPA my one semester of college. So then I was able to kind of shop around for schools after that.
With that GPA.
But I wanted to, since I had just like spent every penny that I had, I wanted to save up some money before I went off to school. So I started at Superior, full intention of going to school after a year, and just kind of got sucked into making money, right? They kind of warn you about that, but
Right.
it's actually worked out really well. Like, I don't think
So you're glad you didn't
yeah,
continue with school?
I'm super glad that I didn't go pursue a degree, just because, in my personal opinion, outside of like things like nursing and, I mean, like, right, you have to, for a trade like an electrician, you got to go get at least a 2-year
Right, there's things you have to be licensed
There's
for.
things that you have to get an education, a college education to be able to do.
Mhm.
But most other things, if you're willing to work hard and like you're
And a
able to
company gives you
learn,
the right opportunity.
yeah, you got to find a company where you can have the opportunities. But at this point, I'd say that my work experience is more valuable probably than
Right.
a degree.
Plus you got paid.
And plus I got paid to get all that
Yeah.
experience. And so instead of like, okay, it's 3 years down the road with this company, like if I was in school, that would also be X amount of dollars in debt.
Right.
And then when you graduate, then you're just trying to find
Mhm.
any job to start paying things off. And at this point, it's like,
Yeah.
I have a house, got
Yeah.
all these different things, and I'm making money and I'm not paying off student loans. So
I think it helps that you're a smart guy. Like some 19-year-old kids that are done with college, maybe not ready to join the workforce or
it
successfully
I
join
think-
the workforce and get a career.
Right. It takes
Maybe
the
some
right
are, but-
personality, I think.
Right.
I mean, kind of my strategy or focus or whatever was it. Well, just kind of in general is if you kind of commit to always learning new things and you're
Mhm.
willing to work hard, and I mean maybe start at a lower wage, but with the confidence in yourself that you will exceed expectations and you will earn, right,
Mhm.
what you think you're worth if you just put in that hard work up front. I think that's part of the hard thing, right? You get all these kids who, even when they get out of college, so they've got a degree, and then they have a hard time finding a job doing what they are passionate about or what they got their degree in, because they're not going to make what they think that they're worth with their degree right away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's kind of hard, right? If I did 4 years of schooling to kind of say that I specialize in something, I would want to make a certain figure right away as well. But
Right.
I think sometimes,
It's hard when you made the investment to take a job that
yeah, exactly,
isn't in your field or isn't
Right.
what you've been working for the
right,
last 4 years or whatever.
yeah. But
It's also kind of an interesting. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but so many people have 4-year degrees now that it's becoming. I mean, it is. It's just less and less of a differentiator for you when you join the workforce.
yeah,
So there's that element, and then there's also the element of schools not really mimicking the real world or teaching you skills that are maybe different than that aren't lining up with the skill sets that a lot of employers are desiring.
right. Yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing, right? It's like you can learn all sorts of different things in school, which are based off of what your professor in his time in the workforce, like, was important back then, right?
Yeah,
Or different,
Mhm.
different things like that, where, I mean, our world is advancing at such a quick rate. If you look specifically at technology, right, it's like, yeah, maybe this type of code was really important back when your professor was in the workforce,
Right.
but that's not even important now, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's definitely something to be said for just being able to commit yourself to 4 years to learning something. That probably means that in general, you're going to be able to take that and apply it to learn as you need to other pieces to adapt and fit into where the world sits now. But at the same time, a lot of schooling isn't necessarily practical stuff that really is.
Right. I think what you're saying is that's a whole skill unto itself, is learning how to take the education that you've received and apply it in a new context.
You definitely.
Because when you're going to school and you're good at school, and then you go into a job, things aren't quite handed to you in the same way, and you have to be more
Right.
flexible. So there's almost that skill of how do I take, like I have a liberal arts degree, how do I take that and I apply that in the manufacturing world, which is very possible, but you have to, maybe nobody quite explained how to do that to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's tricky, but
Well, and I think you and I had kind of talked about this a couple weeks back, but just even the fact of like you coming out of college, like in school, the things that you have to get done, your assignments and stuff, it's like the expectations are laid out clearly. Here's your dates. And then sometimes, right, you come into the workforce, and that's not always necessarily the case. So it's kind of hard to switch those gears when for 4 years, or really your whole life up to that point, you've been on like this assignment type,
very systematic.
Systematic schedule, and then suddenly it's like, hey, now you can kind of set your own schedule as long as you're getting the things you need done, and you have to be able to kind of juggle priorities. So it's like, I might miss this due date, but this due date's more important, and it's not like school where I get an F if I don't turn in that paper.
You might have to be a little bit more creative.
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, schooling definitely is very applicable in a lot of ways, but there's also, I think, other ways that it kind of
falls up short.
Yeah, definitely falls short, gives you a different idea of expectation of what reality is.
Think of the model of education where you have one person stand at the front of the room, the professor, the teacher, instructing, and obviously there's different models of communication and of teaching. But in general, you have one person stand in front of the room and give a lecture to a group of, anywhere from 20 to 400 students.
Yeah.
And how that really hasn't changed over the last 100 years.
Definitely.
Whereas the workplace, the iterations of work models goes on and on and on, and the market is so tough that, the companies have had to change their models and the way that they approach the tasks that they have to get done again and again and again, and reinvent themselves in order to stay alive.
Yeah.
Whereas like the market of education seems like it's behind. It's behind, and it's sort of interesting that there's a lot of almost romanticism about still in place with parents sending their kids to college and thinking that this will for sure get my kid a good job, and maybe some of that's breaking down, but a lot of those things, that romanticism or that belief sort of keeps the standard procedures in place. Right.
Yeah, I mean, knowing what I know now, and the conversations I've had with people who are graduating, it's like, if you know what you want to do, then by all means, like, if you feel like you want to go to school for that, to specialize in it and to learn more, then by all means do it. I think where we do a big disservice to a lot of kids, though, is where it's like, you have to go to school. They have no idea what they're passionate about, what they want to do, and they end up going to school for 5-6 years because they're switching majors, and they're kind of always in this back and forth state trying to like even figure out who they are, as well as feeling like they have to maintain this this level of learning and a good GPA, even though they're going to classes they may not be passionate about.
Right. There's a lot of keeping mom and dad happy, and also mom and dad are probably funding this.
Oh, definitely.
And that doesn't always lead to the best results necessarily.
Right.
You gonna send your kids to college?
All depends. Kind of what I was saying.
Kid to kid, case by case.
Totally a case by case thing, right? It's like, I mean, my daughter grows up and wants to be a nurse.
Right.
Then you're going to school.
Seems like there's also a lot of really good technical school options and community college options that teach people hard skills that they're able to then go get a job and a career.
Yeah, more
after 2 years at
specialized,
way
and
less,
focused
not 100,000.
in 2 years at a far more practical dollar amount. I mean, even my friend Adam is looking at going to electrician school, and it's like, that's a 2-year degree, but you get paid the whole time that you're doing it because you're like in an apprenticeship, really.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a fantastic option, right? So instead of going into debt, it's kind of that same option, but you're also getting very focused. Like, I mean, it's not like me going into the workforce where I have to make sure that I'm constantly pushing myself for opportunities to learn. And instead it's like, oh, you're a newbie, but we understand that you're going to be valuable, so we're going to pay you, and here's this learning track and all that stuff. I mean, that's a pretty cool option as well, I think.
Yeah, I worked with one lady when I was a student worker at the 4-year school I went to, University of Minnesota Morris, and she graduated from that school where she's now working, but she had gone to grad school. I think she was like an English and art major.
Okay.
And she had gone to grad school for art or something, and then she dropped out, and she's kind of like, this is not really working for me. And she eventually went to a technical school and learned kind of all the like the Adobe suite and the Photoshop and the graphic design. So she applied all these, she was a smart lady, all these English skills and art skills that she had, which probably weren't, it's probably more like painting and writing and all this different stuff. And she applied that in a technical school setting and got some of the software skills to then, get a pretty good job.
Yeah, and kind of segue into where the world currently is at.
Kind of an interesting thing that like tech school was almost grad school for her. Like she was like, well, I'm not really going to go this route of continued, I don't know, whatever, Master's of Fine Arts or whatever she was in. But yeah, a lot of people get to their job a lot of different ways. I think one of the most important things is to be aware while you're in school. It is to be strategic and to be aware of what's going on.
Sure.
And to sort of, if you want to go to liberal arts school, if you want to be a history major and all that, like keep all of those romantic ideas of complex thinking and, being a citizen of the world and all that, but then also have that strategic vision for like, how am I going to use this and apply this, to get a job, and understanding that the school that you're going to is in some ways a business, and they're going to sell you on their points,
right?
But they're also going to give you a degree and drop you off someday, and there's no guarantees. And I think if you go in it with, that way, then you can figure out how to get the, to not become disillusioned and to get what you need out of it.
But that's easier said than done when you're 18, right?
Yeah,
you're coming out of high school and you're, majority of people, right? They're more there to kind of learn who they are than really to go pursue something that they're super passionate about right away.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Man, this turned into like an education podcast.
I was gonna say, do we segue to the fact that we were both homeschooled in high school?
Oh man, don't tell people that.
For your whole life.
Graduated from homeschool 2011.
So like,
took my math and science from public school.
Yeah, really?
Oh yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah.
9th through 12.
Those are probably the most important ones.
Yeah. So I did history and English at home.
Okay.
Which are, a little bit softer, a little bit easier for my parents to come up with curriculum.
Well, yeah.
And then I took chemistry, physics, pre-calc, algebra, 1 and 2 in geometry, all from the high school. So that helped me because then I was getting, more specialized instruction in that.
Yep.
And I didn't have to ask my mom pre-calc questions and then go wrestle with the book and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I was in sports too, so that helped. It seemed like I was going to school there because I was taking 2 to 3 classes a semester.
Right. So overall, like, do you resent your parents for homeschooling you, or do you think that it was a like super beneficial? If you had a choice, knowing what you know now, would you do it again?
Yeah, I would do it again. One thing I'm thankful for with homeschool is seeing that there's more than one option educationally.
Sure.
And just seeing that there's more than one option in your life. So you're presented with an issue like, hey, you got to educate this kid. We're going to educate myself. And instead of just going with, okay, this is the standard thing, we just slot you into here, no questions asked. You go, am I going to Catholic school? Am I going to private school? Am I going to public school? Am I going to charter school? Am I going to homeschool? And sort of seeing things more as options and trying to find the best path for you.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of helpful. My dad was really good at that, coming up with multiple options, not living in false dichotomies of like, is there this or that?
Right.
So even if you're like, oh, it's a crazy idea, that you at least put it on the table to consider it for a little bit. I think that's a helpful just like a helpful value to grow up with.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was grateful that there was a lot of, I think one misconception sometimes about homeschooling, which is probably perpetuated by some people,
Yep.
is that you're kind of like you're on an island unto yourself.
Yeah.
And I was a part of a homeschool kind of organization where we were in contact with a lot of other people who homeschooled.
Right.
So,
And
I would
you
be in
played
sports.
sports,
I would be in
yeah.
t-ball, but then other kids would ask you, like, do you have any friends? And you're kind of like,
You're
yeah, like I have my other homeschool friends, and I come to t-ball and see you guys. But that was part of it. It was like we had,
Yeah.
sometimes a couple parents would get together and there'd be a speech class or an art class.
Sure.
In our homeschool group. And we
Yeah.
had like weekly like sports nights where all the homeschoolers get together and play volleyball or soccer.
Right.
Or have bonfires. There was a yearbook even.
Really?
Yeah, there's a yearbook. We didn't have prom, but we had like a formal, which was maybe like our graduation. Like all the
Okay.
people in your class, and you get dressed up and have a dinner and parents talk.
Did you get to dance with a girl?
dance. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was pretty strict. That maybe happened one year and then they got rid of that. But
Because you were grinding or?
no,
Okay.
because we were square dancing. Still pretty homeschooled. Let's not get it wrong.
Yeah, that might be crossing the line. I mean, like even at North Central, the college I went to, like there was
AG.
no dancing, no smoking like tobacco, no drinking even if you're of age. Like still very strict overall values. You
That's
sign a
what-
whole contract like
That's one thing that I mean, obviously, like both of you and I grew up in sort of faith-based families,
yeah.
pretty conservative and whatnot. But I mean, my family believed in dancing. We were fine with it. But that's sort of an interesting thing for like churches to be against. Because if you read the Bible, there's definitely dancing in the Bible. Like,
Right,
there's plenty.
it's right there. Like
It's
plenty of times.
I feel like that's a cultural component. Like, there's dancing in every culture and every society. You're
Right.
Like, this church, we don't dance. It's like,
Yeah, I'm
like you
kind of
don't
curious.
sing or you don't eat meals together, or that's just kind of a weird one in my mind.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I've never actually like gotten an education from somebody who actually understands where kind of the roots of that were.
Right. I feel like there's
So-
some hardcore Lutherans back in the day. Some people who probably got like, drinking illegalized.
Right.
That
I mean,
were
like just
probably
anything
anti-dancing.
fun is worldly. Maybe is kind of where that like comes from.
Yeah. Dancing's a slippery slope, man. First you're there, then where your hands going,
you're
where your
dance-
hips
then you're
going,
naked.
and
Yeah. So we don't dance.
It's like having sex with your clothes on, kids.
I mean, some of those middle school dances are pretty disgusting.
Oh man, middle school dances.
Yep. I only went to them so I could fight. That's about it.
Do you have a name picked out for your kid?
We do.
It's secret though, right?
Yes. It's.
Okay.
You will know very soon.
Right. You'll tell the kid and everything.
Yeah. Like she'll even know.
But it's a girl.
Girl.
It's
Yep.
confirmed.
Yes. And I did not get to truly celebrate Father's Day, which was I know, like kind of a sad
Like,
ordeal.
She's almost
like,
out. Oh, yeah.
We decided I'm 99/100ths a father, like, but
You just want to confirm that the pregnancy and everything, the birth goes out right.
there's just kind of that 1% of like until you're holding that baby in your arms,
Right.
Like, yeah, you're a father because you know
'Cause the
birth
kid's
begins
there.
at conception. There's definitely a whole baby in there, but it's kind of a little different to celebrate Father's Day when there's just a watermelon inside your wife's belly. So
How crazy would it be if she has the kid and it's a boy and not a girl, and they got it completely wrong for some odd reason?
yeah, we've like
Do you have a backup? Like,
I've thought
male
about that.
Name?
yes, we have. So we actually agreed on like the boy names like right away. Like we had two of them, and kind of like I had the one I like, she has the one she likes, but we like both were like, oh, those are both good names. Like if we had two boys, those would be their names.
Okay, cool.
So that was really easy. The girl name was the hard one. Like
It's more difficult.
we didn't really agree, and it was pretty tough to come up with a girl's name. So, but we have one.
At what point did you figure it out?
It was probably so. I mean, we found out the gender at 20 weeks, and we had been kind of talking about it leading up to that for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was probably like shortly after that, so maybe like 22 weeks or something like
Okay,
that.
that's good.
That we actually were like, okay, we're nailing down the name. And then we had some arguments on how to spell it,
Oh, okay.
right? Because, I mean, you got to
That's a
spell
hint,
names.
folks.
You have to spell names creatively, right? You can't just
You could just spell them the way
Like,
the way
that
they are.
makes sense.
It's an Aspen. You can tell by the way it is.
We just want our daughter to have her name butchered by the teacher every single time.
Yeah, my wife's name is Kaylee, but it's Kali, which
So
everyone.
Callie? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the first few weeks that I knew her, or was becoming friends with her, and I was worried like every time, because in
You
my
said
head
it
it was.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because in my head it was Callie,
Yep.
because I would see like the spelling of it, but I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not Callie. I don't think I ever messed it up. Maybe once.
Yeah.
There was I went to school with these twins. They were identical females, and Christina and Corey. And
That's tough.
yeah, I was at somebody's house one time. It was an evening with friends,
Yeah.
and I called one of them by the wrong name.
Oh,
And
no.
I felt so bad. I felt like an idiot. And she took it well. I mean, obviously, it probably happened to her a million times before.
Right.
But I had known her for probably a year and a half, like 2 years probably.
So was it just like a slip of the tongue, or like
No,
did
I
you
got it
totally
wrong.
think she was?
I
the
spent
other
the
one?
whole evening up to that point. I mean, usually I was pretty good at differentiating, because it's like, this one has a little bit different hair than that one, and you kind of, I mean, personalities and stuff.
Yeah.
But they looked like really close. Like if they would have had the
Right.
same haircut, it would have been very difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had spent the whole night thinking she was Christina and she was actually Corey, and then
Oh no.
yeah, I said it in front of everybody, and
And everyone's like,
oh well.
Dan's an idiot.
He's an idiot. It's a
Yep.
douchebag.
Jerk move. Yeah. Actually, Bobby Culbertson today or yesterday maybe,
Your coworker.
my coworker. We covered this in the last episode, so
Right. Refer back to the first.
I don't. Yeah, refer back to the first. I don't want to have to introduce all my friends and coworkers every single episode.
I'm thinking for the out-of-state listeners, Dave.
Yeah, sorry. I
Someday we're
apologize.
going back
Bobby
and listening to the
Culbertson
archives.
Is a coworker. We work in the same office. Like, he chews very loudly behind me every day, so I have to wear headphones. That's Bobby.
It'd be funny if we came up with like an infographic or a chart with people's first names and a little description,
That would be pretty good.
almost like characters that we refer to in, mostly every podcast.
We could maybe do stick figures, kind of draw them out with their defining traits and stuff, so then people can kind of put together their own stories and mental pictures as we go.
Okay, so anyways,
But
Bobby.
back to my point of Bobby was reading something and was like, guys, did you know that there's probably twins out there, where one was named Corey at birth, but then the parents got confused, and so they actually call the other one Corey now. That's kind of crazy to think about.
When would they?
If they're babies,
Right.
right? You
So
put them
3
in the
months
same.
in,
So
you kinda
3 months in, you
switch.
put them in the same crib to take a nap, wearing the same onesie, and then they did a switcheroo.
They've
You
been
come
going
in-
by the wrong social security number the whole life, and no one's noticed.
Yeah, it's gotta have happened. There's probably someone out there.
There was they were older than me, but there was a pair of triplets in the community here, and
Oh,
they
man.
were all on the basketball team, the Morris Tigers
Oh wow.
basketball team, and I think every once in a while at halftime, 2 of them would switch jerseys,
Just
and
for fun.
the refs never noticed.
Yeah.
They would just.
That's
That's pretty
great.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Can you imagine one's in foul
Oh,
trouble?
you would
and
have
you're
so
like,
much
this guy's
fun
got
with
4 fouls. They just kind of switch it up.
Just
I bet 1 or 2 of them played more than the third one too.
yeah.
Switched to jerseys, got less fouls. Man, that
Right.
guy off the bench has been playing a lot in the second half.
It's just full of energy. Played the whole first half.
He's looking a lot like his brother right now. This is amazing.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
What'd be the worst is dating identical twins.
I think you're more beautiful.
They'd be one of them would switch out for a date just to see if you actually know which,
Oh man,
which one's
that
your
could be
girlfriend.
dangerous.
That would be bad.
That would be really bad.
Yeah. Glad I didn't do that.
Don't date a twin.
There was
Identical twin. You can go for the safe ones.
There was one set of twins in middle school when I grew up, but they were the only ones. And they weren't like very identical, just like one wore more makeup than the other.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's actually funny because now they both wear the same makeup and stuff. So now I don't think I could tell them apart. But
Oh, really?
like in
Wow.
middle school, they just like were a little bit different. One was more of a tomboy. And so you always knew which
Mhm.
one was which.
That'd be really funny to be an identical twin and then like discuss with the other one, like, hey, you be the skinny one, I'll be the fat one. And then people can tell the difference.
Right.
Like, you look pretty much the same, just some extra chubs. There's twins in my family, Elizabeth and Chris, boy and a girl. But when they were really little, like they were babies, people, like my mom would introduce, they're like, hey, this are our twins, Chris and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I suppose Chris is enough of, like, that could be a girl's name.
It's close enough.
But
yeah.
I always thought it was funny because the next question people would ask almost without thinking. Like, they're right there, and they're like, oh, are they identical? Just because they're twins and they, like,
Sure.
wanted them to be.
Like, yeah, in your
are they
mind, you
Mary
think
Kate
twins.
and Ashley?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, no, one's a boy, one's a girl. And it went on more than just when they were babies. I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, when you
Chris
live
had
with
pretty
them.
curly hair, but
Sure.
definitely a boy.
Right. I'm sure they were dressed
By the
way
time you're
differently
1 and
too.
2, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
This hop slice immediately started tasting better as soon as I put it in a glass.
So, do you normally drink your beer from a glass, or like is
I
it
try
always better?
to. I like it better. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Generally, I'm not too snobby on that, but maybe I should be.
yeah, I suppose why does it make a difference? Because it's a glass bottle and it's a glass.
I suppose maybe
glass.
just the fact that like it's funneling from a bottle might.
It's easier to drink from a glass and not a. Let me turn my phone off here. And not a bottle. I don't know. I think it's just more relaxed.
Sure. Maybe
Some people are really into it. They've got all the different glasses for all the different styles of beer.
Yeah.
This book I was reading, they were kind of all about
There's
that.
got to be a science behind it. You're going to
Yeah.
have to educate us on the science.
Yeah. I feel like I'd have to buy a lot of different glasses to figure that out.
Maybe we'll have to invest in some glasses so we can
Mm-hmm.
accurately drink our beer while we talk on our podcast.
I've got this whiskey glass now.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah, I got it when I was in Denver last couple weekends ago. We went on this tour, this distillery tour, and that was part of the package deal. Got to taste
sweet.
a couple of their whiskeys, and then they gave you the little whiskey glass. And this is one that I'm not going to do it now, and obviously we're not filming. But if there's no whiskey in it, if you topple it over, it always stands back up.
Really?
It's like one of those bobbly things that
That's
does
cool.
that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Neat.
The nice thing with this is the way it angles upwards, so that like when you nose it and smell it, it's more concentrated. The glass isn't.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's not angled outwards, so when you smell it, it's more concentrated. It's more focused.
Do you nose your
Yeah.
drinks often?
Some of
Yeah.
those, I do with whiskey because it's like, I don't know. It's an enjoyable. It's kind of like drinking. Like it's an enjoyable experience. You can take in a lot of the flavor
Yeah.
as well. So, yeah.
So, circle back to homeschooling. Are you going to homeschool your kids, Dan?
I don't know. I don't have any kids yet, so
Are you going to have kids, Dan?
someday.
Like soon so that my daughter can have a friend?
I'm gonna name them Carl, Bob, and Steve.
They're all going to be girls.
no matter what. No matter what the
Like-
gender is, it's Carl, Bob, and Steve. Against the will of my wife, who doesn't like those names.
Do you act like you actually really like those names? Or-
I don't. I kind of like Carl.
Okay.
I could maybe go for Bob. I don't think I'd name my kid Steve.
Sure.
I don't know. My middle name is Steven, so that would
Okay.
maybe work out. And my grandpa's name was Steven. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd just be they just sounds like nerds. I don't know.
Maybe you can slip one of those in as a middle name, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe those
Like,
will all be
those
good
are-
middle names.
Like Carl, that's a pretty good. I can see that as a middle name.
yeah.
And you could do
But a
Steven or
first name
Steve.
might be cool too. I don't know, Carl.
I just think of Carl's Jr.
Oh, really? I'm thinking of it with a K.
Oh, okay. It's kind of weird how that makes a difference in my mind.
It
Like,
does, yeah.
okay, that's more acceptable. Like, so
Carl's Jr.
yeah.
We call him Carl's Jr. Is your dad's name Carl? No.
No, just
He's just he's a burger fanatic
yeah.
and
My parents are just jerks. That's really what it is. They're jerks. So I love the name Jeremiah. Like,
Jeremiah.
since I've been like probably when I was 15, I decided like I want my firstborn son to be named Jeremiah. My wife hates that name, so that's not going to
Probably not
happen.
gonna happen.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
You could get like a cat or a dog or a goldfish. Jeremiah.
She just thinks if Jeremiah was a bullfrog, so maybe I should get a bullfrog.
It's kind of Old Testament.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a artist, Sarah Groves, who has a song called Jeremiah that like
Okay.
it's
It's a great
Like,
song.
it just has great groove. My buddy Steve Brewster drummed on it.
Great
And it's
groove.
just very groovy.
Groovy.
Groove.
Shout out to David and Seth Hossiter.
Yep. there you go.
Groovy.
It's got the groove. So
Hey.
I don't know. Maybe it's just that song like sticks with me from that time of life, and so I was like impacted by it and was like, oh, that would be a cool name. But
Mhm.
those dreams are long gone.
Sometimes there's really cool names, but you know people that are named them, and so
Yeah.
you
that's-
can't really, and they're unique enough that you would only think of that person.
Or
Like I think of like Johanna Franey,
yeah.
like she's our friend, and that's a cool name, Johanna. But I don't know anybody else named Johanna. So if you named your kid Johanna, which is a cool, pretty name,
It would
I don't know,
kinda-
like it'd be like you'd be naming it after, like you couldn't not
Yeah,
be because
and
that's the only person I know named
right, that it would have kind of stuck with you as a
Right.
name in the first place.
I
Or
mean,
just
it's a free country.
I
but-
mean, you'll run into this, when you guys are having kids and you're thinking about names. Like your wife will throw out a name and you'll just cringe because like it'll bring you back to like
Right.
that ex from middle school or whatever it is, and you'll be like, "No, like like I don't know a single good person with that name."
some rude customer service person that you
Yeah,
had to deal
like
with.
there's just people who all like forever and always, even though they have great names,
It's a bad
will
association.
ruin those names for you. So that's kind of. We had a few of those. I'm blanking. I can't think of any right
Right. What if you, with your kids, like you did, like reclaim the name type thing? Like you're like, okay, little
now. We're gonna
Adolf,
take what
little
was meant for evil.
little Adolf. Here we go. You're gonna reclaim this for the world. We got Adolf, Stalin,
Lucifer,
Mussolini,
Donald.
Donald.
Just had Hillary. Have to throw
Hillary.
those both out there.
Right.
Just to equal it out.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
man.
That'd be kind of nuts. Name them all after like famous world leaders.
Leavers. People who should leave the world.
Would you mind?
Could you just step away from this planet, please?
The great Donald.
I actually don't have that strong of an opinion about Donald, but I just, for people's enjoyment, I had to throw it in there.
Oh man, it's nuts.
Yeah. Well, all right.
So, anyways,
So I have a small segment here. I'm gonna put you on the spot of.
yeah, you
question.
had some bullet points. You had
I-
all these prepared, and then
well-
I was like, "Why'd you drop out of college, Dave?"
I was just trying to think through in case we couldn't actually think of like a great subject. What would be something that would be like, okay, I can pull this out so that then we're not, floundering too much. But I think that we filled some good space talking about education. So
No, it was
this can
good.
just be fairly brief. I mean, until you finish your cigar or so, we're
We
about
could take
50
deep down the rabbit
54
hole.
minutes here.
54.
And I mean, you may not be able to even think of anything,
Okay.
but I figured,
Hit
right?
me up.
It was both of us had our anniversaries just recently, 1 year of marriage.
Yours was June 10th?
June 11th.
June 11th. Sorry.
Yours was
Sorry, I
the
forgot, Dave.
19th.
The 19th.
I'm a better friend, so I remember that. Or
Yep.
it was just the other day, like yesterday.
Yesterday. And the due date of your child.
Yes.
Who doesn't
so,
want
like,
to
who doesn't want to share
doesn't want to see the real world?
a day with you?
I don't know how tough she is, man.
Yeah, she's just stubborn. She gets it
She's
from her
trying to
mother.
stay in that safe space.
Yep. So my question, which I mean we could both take a stab at it, but I was like, okay, 1 year marriage might be kind of interesting for any listeners who are thinking about getting married or whatever, or our wives just to hear this. But
If they listen.
all right. So in marriage, what is something or some things that you wish you would have known before getting married? Like something that it's like now you might not even like actually tell somebody, but
Right.
you're like,
Wish I
really
would've
wish I would
known."
have thought that through or known that or just been more prepared.
Huh. Man, nothing comes to mind. Something that I wish it might come to me later on here.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, my first year of marriage has gone pretty smoothly.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Pick the right person.
So right, so far.
I mean, she is gone
no, it
for
has.
another month, so
No. So yeah, the first year of marriage has gone pretty smoothly, and in a lot of ways, it's gone even more smoothly than like our dating and our engagement.
sure.
So that's been nice. In some ways, like I think we worked through a lot of like our differences. I'm sure we'll have more, but we worked through a lot of our maybe communication differences or worldview differences, right? Kind of more off the bat.
Yeah.
So in some ways, marriage has been more chill, and I didn't even date her. I mean, I dated her for 13 months, and then our engagement was 6 months. So by a lot of people's standards, that's pretty fast. Longer than
That's
you.
pretty slow, Dan. And how long were you friends before that?
And we were friends for maybe a year, not even a year before that.
Okay.
So it's a pretty
So
good.
you knew each other for like close to 3 years before getting married.
Yeah, 2.5 to 3 years.
Right.
So, yeah, it's also interesting because you're both. I was 24 when I got married, and she was 21. So you're both like growing so much in that period and changing so much.
Right. Yeah, I think
So that almost helps because you're both maturing. Like you're both becoming less
you're
of
not
like
hard set in like certain patterns or expectations. You haven't like had your own bank account with all your own money for, quite a while and different things like that could definitely lead to more conflict
right.
if you're getting married at 30.
Yeah. I think the thing that I'm enjoying about marriage is kind of the not knowing and the not having insanely strict parameters as far as our ideas of like what marriage has to be. The coolest thing that hit me a couple weeks into marriage was that marriage is like a creative process. I feel like a lot of the ways that people talk about it and view it as if there's predefined roles, there's predefined expectations, and then you have to slot your already existing personality or life into those. And to some degree, I mean, that's true. You're not quite as autonomous as you used to be. But at the same time, the thing that I realize is like if you're on the same page, your marriage can be creative. And
that's good.
You can do like you don't have to do what your parents did as far as a marriage. And then also realizing like the person you married is different than like your mom. Cuz like I mean growing up that's the biggest example you have of like this is what a wife is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of exciting to see like, oh, my wife is different than my mom, which I mean, obviously, and hopefully
Be a little weird if
Right.
she wasn't, right?
So that's kind of cool, is to see like how is this an adventure? How are you going to make your own decisions?
Yeah.
And so maybe that would have been something that would have made me less nervous about marriage, was seeing that once you're married, that you're sort of you're creating your marriage as you go.
Yeah.
And that makes you an active participant in your marriage, not someone that's just receiving like, here's the inputs, this is what you have to do, here's the expectations, and then you trying to fit yourself into that mold totally.
Oh, that's very good.
So yeah. Some of the advice you get before you're married seems very defensive of people are. I could also be completely in the honeymoon stage. Like I'm only 12 months into marriage. Yeah, maybe I probably haven't hit the hard point yet or anything. But can be sort of a defensive, like make sure you do this, make sure you do that.
Yeah.
There's
definitely
difficulty in marriage, which is true. Sometimes I think that's a little weird though, when people are always saying how hard marriage is. Obviously there's difficulty, but for a lot of other things in life, it seems that people view that as opportunity. So people encourage you to get an education, and they don't go, oh, I don't know if you should go to college. It's a lot of hard work, which it is.
Right.
Or I don't know if you should get that job. Like, it's a lot of hard work.
Yep.
A lot of times people have a more positive perspective, like, yeah, take that up, challenge yourself. It'll be good. Obviously there'll be hard things, but the good things will outweigh the bad.
Yeah.
It seems like, and maybe too, because we got married relatively young, at least for our generation now.
Yeah.
That people, and it is hard. It's not a easy endeavor, but that seems in some ways weird to me that's the first thing that comes out of people's mouths, because like anything you do in life that has meaning, has challenges, and has
Right.
Has elements where you have to overcome difficulty and to work through things with other people. It's a relationship, so there's not a lot of set, in any intimate relationship, there's not exactly like a rule book or a guidebook where you go, this is the right answer.
Right.
You have to be honest and hello train. You have to be honest and go through it. So that's kind of where the difficulty lies. But I try to view my marriage as both of us supporting each other and being friends with each other, as we both pursue our different goals and things that we have in life. And I think that brings like a spirit of adventure and a spirit of support to marriage. Yeah. It's fun to finally be able to put that into practice a little bit, because when you're not married, I feel like you still have theories about marriage or how you'd like to do it, or how you think relationships should go. But in marriage, you actually get to see like whether you actually believe that, and then you actually get to put actions to ideas that you have about what a great relationship means. So that's kind of cool, because it gives your ideas about marriage more credence if you're actually married. Yeah. Definitely. It's easy when you're single to be like, oh, I would treat her like this, or I would do that, or I can't believe these bums, and the way they go about their lives and stuff. So yeah, I also like the humility that marriage brings in relationships in general. There was a lot of things that you kind of go sort of unchallenged by as a single person. Sure. I spent most of my life single. I didn't date a lot. And so you just have mostly that one prevailing perspective in life, your own. Right. And then you get all the confirmation bias that you want, and then that's the way you view the world. And so bringing in that other person to provide sort of maybe a balance to your perspective or to challenge your perspective, it provides you an opportunity to grow and to think differently. And that's something I really appreciate. Maybe that was some of the difficulty early on of dating someone and being in a really close relationship with them. But I feel like it's greatly increased my empathy to think about other people's perspectives, other people's stances and the way they view the world, and to actually see them as legitimate. I think before I was in a really committed relationship, I would listen to other people's opinions about life, but I would I would judge it according to my own
Sure.
my own worldview or my own understanding of things, and sort of dismiss it. And you can't be as dismissive when you're in that close of a relationship, which helps you grow.
Yeah.
So those are my
good.
thoughts on marriage.
Great. Wise Dan Tiernan.
Oh man.
No, those
Probably
are good.
not.
Yeah, the one thing that I was thinking, which actually kind of complements, and you've kind of touched on it, but I feel like you were saying, in a lot of marriage advice, right? It's like, especially being young, right? You just get a lot of people who have your best interests in mind. Like, they want the best for you, but maybe they don't everything just does tend to come off more as like a warning, and like, like, you realize this is going to be tough, and this is this stuff, and like, and
to some degree that's fair. It's like you're a dumb 22-year-old or whatever.
Right.
And there's people who've lived 15 years of marriage or 20 or 30, and they're like,
right.
It's real life.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's just such like a general, it's like, we got to lay out everything negative right away. And like, I think in some ways that kind of like right away made me feel like going into marriage, you had to kind of like be extra clear on like all of your own personal expectations for things.
Okay.
In some ways. And I think like
in what way?
Just like, I mean, like, down to, I would really like to have dinner ready when I come home, or like those different things, or like, hey, so should I clean the bathroom once a week and then you're gonna sweep the floors, or like just like trying to lay out all these expectations of what life, now that we're gonna live together, is like. Like, you're just like, the first month I felt like I was like trying to, like, all concerned on like, oh, those things didn't get done. Like, I need to make sure that I'm upfront with like, oh, hey, so I really want you to do this, but I'm going to say, so should I do this or are you going to do this? Like, I mean, I can do it like every week.
Yeah.
Or, but then maybe would you want to do this, right? Like, trying to like lay out all these expectations. And what I wish I kind of would have known now that I understand better is like how much more effective it is to like really encourage your spouse just like in all of the things that they are doing and all the things that they're passionate about,
right? And
like invest into those things, and that you see the return in the thing, like them investing into you and trying to support you and trying to like lighten your load much better if you're more focused on investing into them instead of being like, hey, I have all these things.
Right.
Would you be able to take part of the load?
Yeah.
So instead, just more of like, it's kind of, I think partly, right, like growing up, my parents always tried to be like, so here's the chores we need to do. So, David, you have dishes on Monday and you're going to take the garbage out every single Friday. Like just like laying out, here's how life and making sure the house gets run should look.
So you're like, okay, now I'm a family, or I have a house, or I have a unit.
Yeah, now
and then you're like, these are the key things
to making sure that life goes well and that I'm not stressed because something's not clean, or, or even for my own self, that I don't I don't drop the ball on doing something that, like, if my wife
she's expecting you to do. Yeah.
If she hates to take out the garbage, then like I probably need to know that I need to take it out, and I, for my own personal self, need to like say, okay, every single this day and this day I need to make sure that I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work super well when you're just trying to like get used to what the new normal is, and you're like right out of the gate trying to like, okay, so what are your expectations, and here's what I'm kind of thinking, because it's like generally if you have expectations, the other person probably hasn't thought about it. Right? Have you found that?
Yeah.
Like,
I think like one thing you're kind of bringing up is that there's like the multiple elements of a relationship like this. Like there's the romantic side of things, there's the hopes and dreams and goals side of things, and then there's also the side of like, oh, I have a roommate, and like,
right,
we've got to make this housework,
day-to-day.
And we got to make sure like we're happy with each other as as roommates who do the dishes and pay the bills and figure out all those things. And obviously people have I mean, that can be hard just with your friends, where there's or your roommates, where there's not that dynamic of.
Yeah.
And also, I know more about this person than anybody else does, or they're sharing with me all their emotions or aspirations. It's like a multi-layered, multi-level
Right.
relationship, and kind of everything needs to be in place. One thing I try to just view in my marriage is that I just try to see myself as like a rookie. Like, this is my first year,
Right.
and I just say like I'm a complete rookie at this, and so trying to give each person space to go, I don't have to get this right in the first year or the second year, or
Right.
like you shouldn't expect of yourself or of the other person that there's some 20-year veteran of being in a marriage relationship.
Right.
And so you should be able to, pat yourself on the back if you're doing okay after a year.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to do something, to give yourself that space, almost that grace to make mistakes and to get better and to be dumb about certain things for both parties. Like, I don't know what to do. And,
having grace
that's
for
okay.
yourself, and then also definitely for your spouse. But for yourself is also kind of a hard piece, right?
Yeah,
It's
that
like
can be difficult.
you have the fight, or you realize that you disappointed in some area, and then it's like you got to remember, oh wait, we've been married for a year.
Right.
Like,
right.
Okay, I can correct and figure it out. It's not, I can't have the expectation for myself like I do like in a work environment of like, oh, I can learn everything that's required of me in this position and just make sure that I fulfill those things on a daily basis, and then I go home. Right?
Mm-hmm. I think just another element is fun. Like, how can you keep it fun? That's one thing I'm just reminded. Our friend Mary Lou.
Yeah.
That she told. I mean, I haven't thought about this in years.
Yeah.
But I had a coworker at the fitness center I worked at in college, and she said something about relationships. She said, and she started a relationship like every few months, just checking in, like, are we still having fun together?
Sure.
Is this, and that's, I mean, especially true in a dating relationship.
Yeah.
Where you go, is this, if it's all a burden, then you're probably, maybe not, you're doing it wrong, but it's important
in
to
a
keep,
dating relationship. You probably are.
Yeah. Get out, leave.
It's all a burden.
Yeah, but even in marriage, it's like, why are you doing it? Do you enjoy it? And that's something I would tell people too, is getting married young. It's like, well, I wouldn't do it if I didn't think I was going to enjoy it to some extent.
Right.
And if you're in a relationship, not to enjoy it, but to fulfill some societal standard of like, oh, now it's time for me to be married.
Right.
Or, my parents will think I'm weird if I'm a bachelor, or, then you've got some sort of weird motivation for being there, which doesn't serve the other person.
Right.
Who, I don't know. We don't live in a time of arranged marriages. Like, you should like them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you should be able to enjoy spending a night,
hanging out.
Just even if it's you don't have anywhere to go and you're not spending $50 on a date, you should be able to enjoy whatever it is. Find something fun, whether it's going for a walk, and enjoy their company.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, either be like completely physical or completely doing something like active or watching a movie to be able to enjoy that time together. Because if that's what it requires, then a marriage is definitely not the next step, right?
Yeah. One thing that I think can be a challenge is sometimes when you're dating and you're getting to know a person, you can have like these like deep conversations. And I'm a conversationalist. Like, that's something I value, is having like interesting conversations, deep conversations. I know that was one thing, like when we were dating, that Kaylee would be worried about, like, oh, like, am I interesting enough or whatever? And I told her, I was like,
no,
I wouldn't still be
dude.
here if this was boring. Like, I would have checked out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Some girls you talk to, and you can tell, I don't know, like, I'm not going to be able, for me, there's not going to be a ton more to talk about after a couple months.
Sure.
But I think that can be hard once you've already had a lot of those conversations and you're married.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, I know your deep thoughts and you know my deep thoughts, and you don't want to just, you can't have a deep conversation every night. You can't just repeat.
Right.
You might not necessarily have changed your views or anything. But I think that, at least for me, that can be really satisfying to open up and have that deep conversation again past what are we going to have for supper,
Right.
and what do we have to do tomorrow. That's something that keeps me engaged, but that I find sometimes difficult to have because you already know so much about the other person.
Yeah, staying intentional on the day-to-day is definitely something that, I mean, is a huge struggle, right? It's like, it's far easier when you come home from being at work all day and you're stressed with other things and you've had a lot of interactions with people to, like, eat dinner and then watch a Netflix show, right? Like,
Right.
that was a lot of our winter, right? Because it's also hard to...
Because it's Minnesota and you can't go
out and do
outside because
anything.
the air will kill you.
Right, exactly. So, like, staying intentional is definitely a piece of it that I think you know it going into, because, I mean, you've been in your relationship, you're like, oh, wait, like, yep, we got to stay intentional. We got to, before we get married, we definitely have to appreciate each other for more than just the fun. But even though you know it, there's a whole nother level of it when you're actually married. Wake up every morning next to that person, go to bed every night. You see them all the time.
Yeah.
Making sure that in your evenings, you're not just checking out because you need your own personal headspace.
Right.
Always. I mean, there's time for that, right? It's like, I've started this pipe making, and it's like, it's super healthy for me to be able to go take half hour to 45 minutes, an hour in the evening to kind of like check out from all of the different work things I have going on, and then be able to be like, okay, now I have headspace. I've processed through some things that I had to like clear out of my head, ready to be intentional and focused on like our relationship and you know, having those good conversations, making sure that I'm aware of where you're at and I'm investing into, you know, filling up your love tank, you know, all that stuff.
Are you more of a verbal processor or an internal processor? Where on the spectrum?
I'm
I don't
I'm
know
a
about
lot-
myself, Dan. I'm
a
sorry.
lot more verbal, but I've realized with Haley, because she is totally, completely internal,
Okay.
that I can be verbal to a very unhealthy point of like, I'm just throwing out thoughts before I even consider like the impact of like, I'm trying to process through something, and then I'm like freaking out my wife or I'm upsetting her because I'm just throwing out my thoughts. They're not thought through. I'm not actually convicted about necessarily what I'm even talking about.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to wrap my own head around it. It's unfiltered. And then since she's such an internal processor, especially right away, like in our relationship, right? It's like, for her, it was like, if I say something, it means that I'm like either super excited and passionate about it,
Right.
or I'm super upset and I'm finally like, I need to let
I've
this out.
stewed on this.
I've thought
I'm
about it
saying
for
something
3
now.
days straight. Me, I'm like, I just had this thought. I'm throwing it out there. It was actually kind of a funny thing on that her uncle, Haley's uncle, Neil Tilke, I think it was like at a family Christmas thing just this last year, where he talked about how like there's people who are painters and people who are pointers. So like, do you paint a picture, right? It's like, I'm reliving something that we both went through, but I'm painting the whole picture, even though you already know the details. You just want to understand the point of what I'm thinking about or I'm frustrated with. So Haley's a get to the point. Like, I'm not going to paint a picture of like emotionally what led up to me coming to this conclusion. I'm just going to say, here's my conclusion.
Yeah, I already know the context. Here's what I think.
And when somebody does that and drops that on me, I'm like, what? Like, I need context. Like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
And me, on the other hand, I'll talk for 45 minutes just to set the stage to help you understand what I'm thinking.
Right.
And that drives my wife insane. And so Neil was talking about that within like just most couples. There's one person who's a painter, one person who's a pointer.
Yeah.
And he was like saying, well, his wife then brought up, she was like, since he's a pastor, so he preaches on Sunday mornings, and he's such a get to the point type of person that he just jumps from point to point to point and ends up going like on rabbit trail points.
Okay.
Because he's not like painting one main picture. He's like, I had my main point, I already got to it.
Yep.
Going to the next thing.
Boom,
that,
boom, boom.
That his wife will, she has a piece of paper always with her, and she'll draw a rabbit on that piece of paper and hold it up for him to let him know that he's going down rabbit trails, and he has to get back to his main focus that he was on. So
yeah, I think I'm probably more of a pointer. I'm probably more internally processing. And then for an internal processor, when someone starts spitting out, like I think my wife is more like you in that.
Yeah.
Like just saying everything all the time. Like a feeling comes up and it's expressed.
Yeah.
It's like it can sound careless, or you're taking, because you're just pointing to conclusions all the time. You think that their verbal dump is like a series of conclusions, and it's not.
Right.
And so
it's leading up to something.
And you're trying to also internally process that. So you're like, I just got half hour of your conclusions.
Yeah.
And you're like, how come you conclude that? Like,
sure.
Da 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 da. But yeah, that's a key thing to understand.
It's super healthy to understand that about yourself and about the person that you're in a relationship or people that you spend the day with. Like anybody who you spend a lot of time with, it's pretty
communicating with or
important to understand how they communicate. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super important. Man, this podcast is pretty honest.
Yeah, I feel
like we're not.
I hope we're. I think that was kind of the goal, right? Like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We want to have intentional conversations that where we're able to be kind of vulnerable and just kind of sit back and have the normal conversations we always have, but giving some other people maybe some perspective that hopefully is beneficial. And we'll get some guests on here soon that hopefully we can even have some more different conversations about, just people with different life experiences in different places, different towns, different goals and business ventures they're on, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. I think lately I've been realizing like the importance of honesty and expression more so than I have in the past.
Sure.
I think for a lot of my life, there's definitely been an element of like presenting. Like this is, keeping those questions and keeping those honest experiences down and then presenting like a good image.
Yeah.
And I think almost too, like working in a marketing office where all the news is good news and all the things you're writing about and that you're talking about, that just makes sense. It's about how great the company is and great the products are and all that stuff. Well, that's all great and stuff for a job. That part of me craves just being like, this is how it is.
Right.
Or this is how I really think, or this is an experience that happened to me. Not editing quite as much in life.
Yeah, not writing a blog post where then you can kind of make sure that you can worry too much about making sure that you're thinking through how everyone else might perceive this, especially the people who are close to you, and that you're presenting it in such a way that you're making sure you look secure and well-informed and like that your own personal image is put together. And that's, I think, part of the main reason that I'm excited for this podcast is like, though I do process verbally really well with people, I think there's a lot of things that it's like, I'll process it with close friends, but I'll never put it out there just because it's like,
well, there's risk.
There's a lot of risk, and so it's like,
there's
it's
risk
a cool
in honesty,
opportunity to just be like, well, here we are. We're just gonna talk. It's unfiltered. We're gonna be kind of pretty honest, and it's kind of. I'm excited just for the ability to really put personally where I'm at, the things I'm struggling with, the things that I'm excited about, all that stuff honestly out there, and hopefully it helps people understand me better and leads to some good conversations.
What's really impressive is people who have like this podcast is obviously it's our second one. It's super small. I don't know if anybody will listen to it.
Right. Especially at
but
85 minutes.
People who actually like have an audience who are still honest.
Yeah.
Who aren't just projecting some sort of image of themselves. That's like super impressive.
Right.
I could definitely see that even becoming harder. Like if you get more of a following online to like maintain that type of rawness. But
right.
Well, should we wrap things up there, Dave?
Yeah, I think we're good. Ready to wrap up.
Been an enjoyable hour and a half.
Yeah.
If you're still listening, thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Signing off.
Adios.